Hello, my name is Imogen Caterer. I run, the date today, I should say, is 29th of January. So we're getting 2018, we're getting very close to the February 2018 operational case study exam. We're about a week away from the start of it. And, you know, I've noticed that people are getting a little stressed. And I want to say something about that, really. This video may be relevant to other case study exams as well. In fact, it will be, frankly. As I say, I run the operational case study group on this. But also I wrote an article on passing P1, which takes a very different view than just telling you how to calculate variances. This may be a relief to many of you, which if you look at the UK CIMA group in the files, you can find it there. I am a trained transformative coach. I'm just outing myself here. But I suggest you ignore that and just see if what I have to say is whether it resonates with you. Okay. Well, let me start with a little personal story. I've been doing a bit of past papers, and on Thursday there was just this sense that really I'd had enough of it, and I kind of was part doing it and part not doing it because I'm getting fed up. And my friends were going out to the cinema and I wish I'd joined them, but didn't. I left it to the next week, next day, when I collapsed in front of, you know, Darkest Hour, which was a great break from thinking about OCS. And the next day I was kind of I wasn't there. I still probably needed a break a bit more, and I was just a bit half-baked. And then on Sunday I settled down and I was quite comfortable doing F1 revision. It was quite nice, actually. I quite enjoyed it. And but then I took a break to do a mock exam because I needed to finish off. I felt I should do it. What a dangerous word that is. So I started the mock exam. First section went well, and then the second section, they were saying in King Crystal, which is the company for the OCS, the fake company for the OCS this time, they were saying that in King Crystal there'd been a substitute of fluorine from iron from fluoride to iron, fluorine, the gas, to iron oxide, the metal in it, in a preparation. And therefore they'd had some problems and they wanted us to do some calculations. And I thought, you bet they'd had some problems, because fluoride to iron oxide is a ridiculous substitution. And I went straight up in my head, oh, I'm a chemist, I can't believe. And I cannot believe that this company has produced such a shitty little operational mock exam, and this is the final mock we'll have, you know, and all that kind of stuff just went, oh, for goodness sake, you outrageous. And I didn't read the question properly and I ballsed up my answer. And it got worse, because the next section they were doing some kind of semi-incomprehensible one that looks like it was environmental or something else, and it was just, you know, poor, really, and I just blew a gasket. Really, you have broken my psychological contract. This is going to be more psychobabble you're going to ask me to write, which I don't like, okay? Don't like many of the psychological theories. I don't think they work. I think they're made up. And, you know, I just, I'd had it. The fourth thing was a bit better. I know I've always got worse. I've probably got even more of a score. My score is getting worse and worse every time. And there are all sorts of problems with what I'm doing that I've been trying to fix and trying to do everything and getting very overloaded as a result. Let me tell you about my friend John. And this may sound like a complete non sequitur. John El-Mokadem is a coach who got over chronic fatigue. One of the things I heard him say recently was, you know what, I kept trying to fix my symptoms. Over and over again I tried to fix my symptom, and by doing that I got more and more stuck in it. And when I stopped trying to fix my symptoms, there was an immediate relief, and they were less. And he said some of my clients, because he helps people with chronic fatigue, some of my clients, that's all they need to do to dramatically recover. I'm going to leave you with that. And take you back instead to, it might be 2003, but I don't know. When I'm trying very hard to be a nutrition consultant, working, studying with the Institute for Optimum Nutrition in London, which is generally quite good, I think, but I'm a bit out of touch. But on this occasion, they just started their clinical studies and they hadn't quite got it right. I passed one clinical study, and that was me basically I give a consultation to a client, and a clinical tutor observes me. And I passed one, and I went back. I wasn't satisfied with what I'd done, perfectionist. I wasn't satisfied with what I'd done, so I went down to London to do another one. And I overanalyzed it, and I got up in my head, and I didn't connect with the client at all, and I just messed it up because I was so full of, this is the things I've got to do, I've got to do, I've got to do, I've got to do. And I was criticised by the tutor, face to face, very nastily, I found, who wrote me off. And she wrote an internal memo, which I unfortunately got a copy of it when I asked for, some feedback on this thing, proper written feedback on this thing, where she totally wrote me off and said there was no hope for me ever to become a nutrition consultant. Understandably, I was not pleased. At that point, I felt my life work was to become a nutrition consultant. I took it very personally, I took it very hard, and it hit me terribly. Just one woman's opinion. But it hurt. Part of the trouble I'd had is that I was trying to integrate something I'd found very useful called non-violent communication with the consultation process. And I'd got up in my head and was trying too hard. And I had an insight. And I had an insight, this sort of sight within you suddenly go, aha! And I had this insight that communication is not about the words. And I could connect again to my client and really just home in on what she needed. So I passed one, and then I had a final one in front of the head of the clinical studies with some prior tuition. And I was doing somebody who had numerous consultations because she was one of the Institute's sort of dummies, puppy dogs or whatever, I don't know. But you know what I mean. She's had loads. And I just really connected with her. And I had her form sort of prior questionnaire in advance, so I knew roughly where I was going. I had some background. But if she asked me a question out of the area, then I would have been happy to do my best to answer it. I wasn't stressing about it like I had previously and thought I had to know everything. And so I just sat with her, and we had a conversation, and I was able to point to her what had actually been going wrong. She'd had loads of consultations and she'd never had the answer. And I was able to point her to it. But it was the connection that was there, the warmth that was there. And when the consultation was over, the head of clinical studies, who had faded into the background during this, who I'd just been able to ignore, like I hope you can ignore Seema. And she said, well, I'm not at all sure she didn't say it's a privilege to watch. Whatever it is, you've certainly got over it. I should have one tiny bit of criticism, but that was about it. And I went out, and the woman, caller Anna, who I was consulting with, who was consulting with me, just rushed on because she'd found the answer. She really felt she'd found the answer. And she'd really enjoyed the conversation, and it made a huge difference. And it was just a really wonderful experience. I got the equivalent of distinction, and it was all the past. It was all the past, and, I learned so much, actually, from that experience, by the way. I mean, you fail and you move on. So what about the operational? Yes, that's right. Operational case study. What about it? Well, we've been given so much advice, some of us with the learning providers, of this, that, and do this, and do that, and do the other, and more headlines would be nice, and more pre-scene, and more this, and more that, and more the other. And some of us are completely up in our heads about this, and panicked. You get your past E1, P1, F1, or you got exemption from it. And yeah, you need to look back and revise that, I'm sure. And I did my preparation for my consultation. We need to do our preparation for this. But still, at the heart of this is you need to connect. Again, get in there. Be the finance officer of King Crystal. Deal with their crazy ideas. By the way, they really like you. If you notice that, they want you to solve all their HR problems, finance problems, IT. My word, you're a guru. I said, you know, and just let some of this drop away, or all of this drop away, and just be who you are in that exam. And don't stress out massively before, because actually those insights, those sights from within, they often come when you're not filling your brain up with this, that and the other. It's a bit like broadband. I have a new backup system, which I'm dubious of, frankly, because when it's backing up my data into the cloud, it slows down my whole computer. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to follow rule after rule after rule from our learning providers, rather than having that as a background. Like I had, there was an idea that you should do those consultations, 20 minutes questions, 20 minutes explanation, and 20 minutes getting them on a program. These are all ideas. They've given you ideas, but it's important just to set those to one side and be the finance officer. And if it doesn't work, if you can't answer that question, still engage with it. And, you know, I hear stories about people who don't answer the question that's asked, okay? Probably because they're up in their heads thinking, I've got to answer, and they haven't connected with the fictitious person that's sending them an email. And let's imagine, for the sake of argument, that they are now real. Sally, Pablo, whatever his name is. Is it Pablo? Paolo? Freddie, they're real. I'm crap with names. They're real. Connect with them. Be there. Be their finance officer. Because you're going to do a good job, you're going to have the ethics in there, you're going to have the stakeholders, you're going to have all of that. It's going to be there. Okay? And, you know, I think there's a whole thing about, you know, what if you fail? Well, you'll live for another 3 months and probably resit it. I mean, and I stand in that split. I might resit, you know, and I'll probably think it's ghastly if I fail for a bit, and then I'll get on with my life and get on with revising P1, F1 and E1. Okay? That's how it is. Sometimes we're later bloomers. Like I was with my consultations. It would have saved me a lot of hassle if I got it right first time. So that's what I'm going to suggest. Because I think if you're all crowded-headed, it can be very hard to access the information that's there. And often those bright ideas come to those with clearer minds than those who are up in their heads. But if you find you're in a busy mind with exam, just keep going. You know, one of my hot tips for the OT exams, which I have sat at least, is keep answering the questions. Because that's always the way that nobody's ever passed without doing that. So go in, be the finance officer, and keep answering the questions. I hope that helps. Otherwise, forget it. And certainly don't add it to a to-do list. Oh, I must be the finance officer, write 4 lines for every paragraph, include the stakeholders, make sure I have all the ethics, all that shit. Put it aside. You are the finance officer of King Crystal. Best wishes.